evaluations now, and there are 5 things that we feel have genuinely added value. The first is being able to process large volumes of qualitative data. We've we've used AI to scan through hundreds of transcripts and documents simultaneously. This does not replace our reading, but it does help us get a fast pass that surfaces general patterns and helps us organize the evidence. And what is most useful is that a task that would have taken weeks of desk review could be could be completed in hours or days. The second use case we found was mapping what the evidence already presents. So before we go into primary data collection, AI has helped us scan existing evaluations and documents and literature quickly, so we can go for data collection knowing where the evidence is present and where there might be gaps. The third is surfacing patterns across large data sets. So reading across multiple interviews and flagging where responses may converge or they diverge. This is particularly useful when we have 100 plus transcripts and a very small team to work with. Fourth is, and this is the most important, that we've learned that AI works from our analytical framework to produce structured output. So when we give it precise definitions, a clear criteria, or explicit evaluation questions, it applies the framework systematically across our data sources. And the fifth one is, of course, like I mentioned, accelerating, uh, uh, increasing efficiency across each stage of the workflow from transcription and translation through coding through to synthesis. And it has genuinely helped in compressing timelines. Shrija, next slide. Here's what we found challenging while using AI. Uh, the first one is that AI tends to summarize instead of analyze. When we give it a generic instruction, like let's say, analyze these transcripts, it it tends to describe what is in the data using language models and its existing understanding of an evaluation vocabulary. The result looks and sounds analytical, but it really isn't. It is mostly a summary with words like outcomes and findings inserted. So the implication here is simple, that if you ask AI to analyze without specifying what kind of analysis you want it to do, you get a well-formatted summary, but not exactly an analytical one. The second one is that AI tends to confirm your framing. So whatever frame you give it, it finds evidence for it. So if your prompt has an answer implied, the output finds the evidence to support that answer without spontaneously looking for any counter evidence or alternative explanations. And this we feel is a real risk in evaluation where we have strong bias about what has worked. So the evaluator has to explicitly instruct AI to challenge the framing, else it won't do that on its own. And linked to that is the fact that AI tends to smooth contradictions. Where sources disagree, AI tends to default to a synthesized consensus. So it will blend out the conflicts in accounts into one coherent narrative. And therefore, the contradiction tends to disappear. But in evaluation, the contradiction is often where the most important analytical insight is. So if a respondent says that a program worked and another says it didn't, that that disagreement itself is a finding which AI tends to overlook. And the fourth one, of course, is that the AI will tend to give you an output after as a first answer. It will produce an output and then it will stop. It doesn't interrogate its own conclusions or stress test its findings or consider what might have been missed. And most of us tend to accept the first output and move on. We'll come back to what to do about this in the later half of the presentation. Shrija, next slide. Thank you. Now, quickly, based on our experience, here's what we think makes the difference. What works is that you break tasks into small steps, you ask AI to extract first, then code, then synthesize in separate prompts. You provide it with ample definitions and examples so AI knows what a good answer looks like and not just what it needs to look for. Then it is extremely crucial to review at every stage and not just at the end. And then also documenting your prompts so you can reuse what has worked in a specific evaluation for you. And what we felt got in the way was asking AI to do everything at once. If you upload too many documents in one go, we found that it produces broad and analytically shallow outputs. Then skipping the counter prompting step, which means that the first answer becomes the final answer. Then mistaking the volume for quality. So AI, when you upload multiple documents, AI will find patterns across those documents, whether they are meaningful or not. And then asking AI to analyze from raw data without prior framing. So we've consistently found that AI performs better as a second reader, not as the first. So you have to provide the thought about the data yourself before you ask AI to analyze it. Next slide, Shrija. So what we find is the problem is not so much about the AI tool you're using, but the quality of the prompts. So AI does not know your evaluation framework. So until you put it in the prompt, AI is working without the information it needs to do the analytical work you're asking of it. And prompt engineering is what works in this case. It is simply the practice of designing and refining the instructions you give AI to produce specific useful outputs. And the difference is between telling AI what to work on versus telling it how to think about how to work on it. And if you see, there's an illustration there. If you give it a generic prompt on a data set saying summarize the key findings from these interview transcripts, you will get a very well structured summary. You won't actually get an analysis. But if you give it a more engineered prompt where you explain your roles and you're an evaluation analyst, read these transcripts, so you explain where the data is, what it is about, then it is able to produce evidence that is more organized, where you can attribute it to the source, and which is more analytically grounded. So the key point here is that the difference is not in the AI tool you're using, but in the instruction that you're providing through your prompts. Go ahead, Shrija. So in this session, what we've tried to do is help you understand prompt engineering through a structured process. And based on our experience, we feel that there are three key steps that you need to account for in a prompt. We are calling these prompt engineering moves. You will be able to see these in the exercise session later. So very briefly, the first move is role and method specification. So without a defined role and task, AI tends to default to being a helpful generalist. So it will summarize and describe at a very surface level. But if you tell it who it is, what method it needs to apply, you explain the method, and then break down the analytical tasks it needs to perform, it fundamentally changes the quality of the output. So if you see the example on the screen, this is an example of an engineered prompt. So you are an experienced evaluator. Your task is to conduct outcome harvesting on this data set. Don't summarize what happened. Identify observable changes in the behavior, relationships, or practices of specific actors. So here you're explaining what an outcome is and what it needs to look for. And then you're telling it where to look for. So start from the primary evidence and not the program's stated objectives. So this single instruction shifts AI from description, just merely describing the data, to actually providing you useful first pass analysis. Then the second move is constraint injection. So if AI is left to its own judgment, it will confirm your framing and smooth contradictions and basically stay within safe territory. Constraint injection builds explicit boundaries. So it is telling AI what to include in the response, what to preserve, and what to actively look for if it would, which it would otherwise miss. So if you see the example here again, we say do not when let's say we are doing outcome harvesting and we want to identify outcomes from a data set, we tell it not to include activities or outputs. Don't resolve disagreements between respondents and explicitly to name the contradictions and note which account is better supported. And if the evidence is insufficient, then explicitly mention that. So this forces rigor and it prevents a false synthesis from occurring. Next one, Shrija. And then the last move is counter prompting. And this is probably the most important move, and many of us uh, forget to use it. And AI, so AI produces the best case for the conclusion that fits the evidence, and then it stops. The counter prompting move is basically a deliberate second prompt in that sense, where you ask it to challenge the conclusions that it has presented using the evidence in the data, and not to use its judgment to balance its understanding of what is strong and what is weak. So this surfaces what the first output would have glossed over, basically the gaps, the alternative explanations, and the weak evidence. And therefore, this helps. Yeah, thanks, Shrija. That's fine. You can move on. It basically helps you surface the bias and present the contradictions. Before we move into the, are we do we have enough participants for breakout? Okay. So
Let's
before
keep it in
we
the plan.
okay. So before we move into the exercise, are there any questions or reflections?
There is one question by Kumar Rajamani. The
Yeah.
question is, are these findings in the slide common across all AI solutions like ChatGPT, Claude,
Yes.
etc.?
Yes. The intention, Kumar Rajvani, is that we are trying to help you engineer prompts that will work across any AI tool that you're using. Of course, different AI tools have their own capabilities, but prompt engineering will at least help you get a better result across any AI tool that you use. Any other questions?
What data hallucination? It happens with quant studies. Is this the same for qual also?
Yes, it is the same for qual also, which is why it is very important that we know our data first. It's key that you know what is in your data so that you can continuously verify the results that are being generated by AI. So that is what I mentioned, that the human judgment cannot be left out of this exercise. It plays a very key role. And no matter how good your prompt is, AI will tend to hallucinate. So if you give it smaller tasks, discrete tasks with lesser amount of data, the possibility of hallucination is lesser, but that does not mean that you can trust the result that is generated irrespective.
And just to add to that, Varsha,
Yeah.
generally what we do is we don't upload. I mean, if you're using like a tool like Claude or Copilot or ChatGPT, we don't upload all of our documentary evidence. We break down the task, like we said. We upload one document. We sort of analyze that one document, then the second, and then sort of move across the activities around sort of like coding and synthesis, etc. But that is also where sometimes we realize that AI tend to weight certain documents based on, I don't know, your questions and relevance. So it also takes its judgment on where to draw the evidence from. and again tends to also miss out. So even if it is not hallucination, we also see that certain sources are not at all referenced. Certain evidence don't come up, even though we know that that evidence exists. And that is why Aikantika said that it's very important to know your data quite well.
Any other
A- a-
questions? Parsha, did you want to share anything about what your experience has been with quantitative data? Because I know you mentioned that you don't work a lot with
Yeah,
qual, but yeah.
I have unmuted myself. It's fine. Right? Yeah, I think when I do the studies like quant studies, when the assessment, impact assessment, or basement studies, and anything, what I face, suppose I wanted to get some idea of the out of the data, and I put it, and then I see that they are giving a lot of other things that is not relevant to the studies at all. So I have to really mention it that don't hallucinate. Give the information from the data that is attached. So sometimes what happens was once that even the ChatGPT or the Claude, they also got really irritated with my prompts and they said that, okay, I'm not hallucinating, but I'm trying to get information from your whatever data you have attached. So there is a chance of since the data set is sometimes small, it's easy to identify. But with this AI tools, what I have also felt or realized that sometimes it's really difficult to, if the data set big, then difficult to really gauge that is it the right thing they have given or I have to go back and see and then cross check it. So that chances of getting, this wrong information are there that we have to be careful about it. Yeah. But to know our data very well so that any
Yeah,
wrong information can be,
yeah.
ruled out. Yeah. Thank
And
you.
I also think that if you have an enterprise license, like Copilot allows you to, it has a work mode and then a web mode. So generally in work mode, at least it sticks to the data sources that you've uploaded and it doesn't go online. But it still means that it's going to use its interpretation of whatever data you've uploaded, even if it is uh, it's from your data set. So it still means that the prompt has to be very well engineered.
Yeah. Yes.
Any other question before we move to the activity?
There is one more. Are there
Yeah.
best practices for preparing transcripts and contextual information to enable more effective prompt engineering and more reliable outputs?
Anu, I think you can bring in your experience with the transcripts here, and I think also on contextual information.
Yes. So what we have realized is one is very unstructured transcripts are not effective. So you will have to do one level of sort of cleanup of your transcripts before you make it available on the any AI platform for analysis. This could be easily structured around how your interview guides are, for example, or just have, I would say, at least some level of standardization across similar categories of transcripts. So for example, if some of them relates to government, then government stakeholder interviews, then have similar, if you can standardize to the extent possible, please do that. Because that also helps AI to really draw effectively when you are especially coding your data. That is our thought and our experience as well. We've tried it with completely unstructured data as well. You can do it. It's not that it's just more effective if you use a little more structured data sets on the AI tool. Aikantika, do you want to come in on the context and I can look at the other questions?
Yeah, I think on contextual information, Anthony, it's very important that you explain to the AI first what is the context it is operating in. So if you are trying to do an evaluation of a program, in your first prompt, you need to be able to explain to it what the program is about, what kind of data you've collected, what kind of analysis you're you're expecting out of it. So if you're doing outcome harvesting, then you explain to it what outcome harvesting is. And within that, if you want context to be included, then you explain what the context is. So if there are, let's say, 4 states that you're working across, then you tell it that the data is collected across 4 states. Each of them has uh, a specific context it is operating in. So whatever analysis that is generated has to be embedded in that context. Basically, it is about explaining what you want AI to do in the prompt itself, and not just tell it's not just an instruction that use context in your responses, but also to explain what you mean by that context so that AI can analyze better. Anu, did you want to add anything else?
No. There are just a couple of more questions that we will answer before we move on to the activity. And some of them, I guess, it's also something we will tackle.
Yeah.
One is how to make summary finding outcome explainable, and if it was inaccurate or incorrect, how to find why it was so. And second is, have you had scenarios where you get divergent outcomes from different AI solutions, and how do you resolve it?
Do you want to take any question, Anu, or should I?
Why don't you come in and then I can respond as well.
Sure, sure. And I think a lot of this will be answered in the next session. But very quickly, like I was mentioning to Shantini, as a part of Shantini's response, is that you have to explain to the AI in your prompt, what do you mean by an outcome? So you would have read the data, you know what an outcome is. So when you're prompting it, you need to tell it, this is what an outcome is. Give it a few examples from your data, from your actual data, so it understands what you're trying to look for. And also explain to it what an outcome is, about what doesn't constitute an outcome. So many times we see that activities or interventions are misconstrued by AI as an outcome. So the trick is in being able to explain to AI what you understand, what it should understand from outcome based on some examples from your data, so that it'll do a better job. We did find a lot of inaccurate or incorrect responses, which is why, again, like I said, it is imperative that you have some sense of what are the outcomes you're looking for. So if a program, let's say, has a theory of change, so you would know what are the outcomes that it is looking for. So you can use those outcomes to guide AI to understand that this is the program, these are the outcomes they're looking for. And then it can map data from the transcripts against those outcomes. But again, in this case, because we are biasing we are using a bias in the prompt to limit it to those outcomes that it sees in the program theory of change, you will have to do more prompting additionally to find out any unintended outcomes that may not have been captured, obviously, within the program's logic, but is present in the data.
And just to add to that, Sridhar, something that we also do is we also like have a human layer or a human in the loop sort of work. So, for example, if we are coding a document, like we are using AI for coding, what we do is one of our team members who involved in the project also codes the same document, because that also helps you to effectively prompt the AI better. So if you are and that needs to be across diverse sets. So if you have a KII transcript from government, an FGD transcript, a program document, you will want to sort of like take a sample of them, code it yourself, because that will help you teach the AI to also understand what your code structure is, what do you mean by certain things. It also helps you to better prompt as well. And that will also help you to find discrepancies. That's been our experience. So it's not just the AI just coding it. It's always like somebody has done some of the samples so that we can really prompt the AI better. Now, in terms of the second questions around scenarios where you get divergent outcomes from different AI solutions, we've had that experience. we've uploaded the same document to a Copilot, to a notebook LLM, to a Claude, and we've realized that they do. A certain set of documents are better. Like, for example, if you have really used a software like an MaxQT or NVivo to sort of code your documents manually, which means like a human being has sat and done this, and you're only using a AI to synthesize it, which means you just want summaries. Copilot is a very it does a reasonably good job, but if Claude does better, like even in terms of languages that synthesis come, you see difference. Like you can, when you give a persona of like a senior evaluator with X years of experience, specialized in ABC methods, the quality of outcome that a Claude gives versus a Copilot gives, like you see that difference in the technical languages being used. How to resolve it? I think it also goes back to backend. So I think you want to understand how the model itself sort of works, what works best for you, what do you want to get out of them. So do you just want a simple summary? Then Copilot is also good, but if you want little more effectiveness, Claude does a brilliant job. LLM is extremely good, though it has its own constraints. But especially for research analysis, Notebook LLM is also something that you can consider, which is under Gemini. So yeah, each one has its own, I would say, drawbacks and limitations, and let's not forget cost as well. But that's, I think, another discussion. But let's move on to the activity. As you might have seen, I've already added the data set on the chat. It will be great if you can now open whatever AI tool you have. This could be Copilot, ChatGPT, this could be, I don't know, LLM, Gemini, whatever that you are using. Please open it and sort of upload this data set. Don't worry, this is a dummy data that we have just created for the for this workshop. So no data safety concerns here. So feel free to just add it, and then Aikantika will walk you through some of the. Yes, anything will do. Any
Claude will do.
platform,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever you
Anything is
have. If
fine.
you, anything is fine. Because the objective is not to look at the quality of outputs that the platform is generating, but it mostly to really understand how to structure a prompt. So
Yeah.
anything will do. Copilot, Claude, ChatGPT, anyone that you have.
And give us a thumbs up if you're able to access the data and uploaded it into any AI tool.
Just
Meanwhile,
one clarification. So this is the regular Claude desktop, the free variant, or you're looking for a paid this thing?
No, any
anything
variant.
is fine.
Anything is fine. Anything is fine.
Okay.
Like we said, the intent is not for you to test the outputs, but to really understand how to prompt. And we've given you a dummy data set, so there is no concerns around data safety. So you don't necessarily need to have like an enterprise license or anything. This is just meant for this activity.
Thank you.
Okay. Meanwhile, I think Shrija, if you can move ahead in the slide. Purnami, can you share your screen instead? I
something
think there's
is
something for Shrija.
sure, Aikantika, give me a sec.
Let me try. I also
Sure.
have my.
So I just open a new chat in Claude, upload this as a file, and what prompt should I, or just
Nothing. At this point, no prompting. We'll take you through the process.
okay, thank you.
Just have the data set ready and the AI to open. Okay. Anup, are you able to put it in full screen? Okay, yeah, thanks.
So we're
Okay,
not having
this
breakout rooms, we're only having document 2, everybody's analyzing, is it? Earlier
yeah,
you had 3 documents, so now it is less people, so you're only doing document 2.
yeah.
All right.
However, Rajmani, I think you came out of mute. What we will do is we will send you the other two activities just so that you guys can try as well. That was always our intent to share this as a resources. So we will try one as a group, but we will send across the other resources so that you can explore them.
Yes, Preeti, the outcome harvesting data. Okay, while you are getting the data and uploading the data set, I just wanted to quickly explain to those who have not done outcome harvesting before about what the methodology is. So it's an approach that focuses on collecting evidence of actual change, which is referred to as outcomes, rather than measuring progress against predetermined objectives. So unlike traditional evaluation methods, outcome harvesting does not require a predefined indicator list or objectives. Instead, it is able to work backwards from observed changes in the data to understand the causal link between the intervention and the outcomes. And this makes it very useful, especially in contexts where you may not have a predefined theory of change, or where the program needs to be more adaptive to the context where change is the kind of change that you may see might be unpredictable. So in our experience of using outcome harvesting, we've seen that there are three problems we faced. First is that if you just ask it to extract outcomes from a data set, it will list out outputs and activities also as outcomes. So without a definition, AI will read the program document, which will have some indication of what the program is trying to do, and then list against that what the program delivered. So if you've had a chance to look at the data set, you will know that things like training sessions or loans disbursed, any equipments installed, for example, will all appear as outcomes. So if we ran a generic prompt on the data set, and we saw these kind of outcomes if you see. So 158 of 160 SHGs remained active throughout the program. X number of women accessed credit, etc., which are not technically change statements. They don't reflect outcomes as such. The second problem we found is that it will tend to provide intended outcomes only. So because it is anchoring itself to, let's say, the results framework or the interventions that the program is providing, it will produce a response that confirms what the program has been able to achieve against those results framework. But anything that is outside the framework, so let's say changes in actors' behaviors who are not necessarily target of the program, or any negative consequences of the program will not be captured. So if you see the example here, beyond stated outcomes, the program produced broader empowerment gains consistent with its overall goal. So it is anchoring the outcomes within the program logic still. It is not going beyond. And the last one is that we find that it tends to misconstrue contribution and causation. So outcome harvesting works backwards, like I said, from observed change to ask what the role the program played. And AI tends to move forward. So it will start with the program logic, and then it will claim that these are the outcomes that have been achieved. But you will not get any alternative explanations, any other factors that may have played a role in outcome achievement, any borderline cases or external factors that have also resulted in that outcome being achieved. So you don't find that evidence. It is tethered within the program's logic still. Shrija, you can move on. So what we will do is, now that you have the AI tool open and the data set, I would request you to upload the data set and let me know if your AI is able to read it. And then we'll work through 3 problems. So like I mentioned, one is being able to distinguish between outputs and activities versus outcomes. How we will do this is that you run a prompt that you think will help you get that response. We'll do a quick quality check through a short discussion, and then we'll provide you the engineered prompt in the chat, and then you can run that, and then we can have a quick discussion again on what your key observations have been. Then in the second problem, I think we'll get to the second problem later. This is just a brief about what the data set is. So we are looking at the Pragati SHG Livelihoods Program. It's based in Jharkhand, which is a state in India, and in 4 blocks of Ranchi district. The program's period is April 21 to 24. The data set is organized in 2 parts. So there is the program document that explains what the program is about, what kind of interventions are given, what phases are there, what kind of budget it has. And then the next section has some dummy data on some primary data that has been collected from the field. So we've included 8 dummy transcripts from different types of stakeholders. And let's assume that the evaluation question we are trying to understand is what changes occurred in the economic practices and agency of program participants, and the role that the intervention played in bringing about these changes.
Yeah, so can you put that evaluation question into the chat so that we can copy and paste?
No, we won't work on this question. This is just to give you an overall understanding of what we are trying to do in the exercise, but the prompts will not be around this, because if you add this as a prompt, for instance, it won't give you good data, because it doesn't understand what economic practices mean, doesn't understand agency, doesn't know what the program is, who the participants are. So this is just to help you understand in a real evaluation setting that you would have some evaluation questions. And for this dummy data set, this is the evaluation question that we work. If everyone has been able to upload the data, then we can go to the first task. Okay. So if you have the data set uploaded, you can write a prompt based on your understanding of doing AI-based prompting so far, asking it to generate a database with all the outcomes that it has been able to see in the program. You can take 2 minutes and just run the prompt. Let us know. You can give us a thumbs up when your prompt has generated a response.
So I had a question. Why can't you ask AI to generate an engineered prompt for this? Why should you write an engineered prompt? So why can't you ask AI to say, give me an engineered prompt, which can then do the outcome task for me rather than blindly asking, right? So creating the engineering prompt itself can be a prompt.
But you'll have to explain to it still what you want it to do. Can you give an example? What are you thinking of? Like, you want to type that in your chat and see what comes out.
Yeah, so I did that. So I just said first generate an engineered prompt for this outcome generation data set to generate a database with all outcomes. And then it created an engineered prompt for me. But
no, you have to write a prompt that asks AI to generate a database with all the outcomes it is able to identify from the program.
Correct. But then you
Rajmani, when we go into the discussion, perhaps you can bring your reflection in
AI
terms of what
can I
the
make
AI
the
said.
AI write the engineered prompt itself? Is what I'm asking.
No. You write a prompt
No.
asking AI
I
to
get that. I
generate.
get that. I can write a prompt. I can think. Right. What I'm saying is a generic prompt is not going to reveal all what is there as outcomes. That's the drawback you mentioned, right? So
Yeah.
if there is a drawback in a generic prompt and you need an engineered prompt, why can't you ask AI to then say, write an engineered prompt for me for generating an outcome? That's like leading it to creating an engineered prompt, right?
Okay,
You
You
get
so
my
can
let's see
question?
Yeah.
Rajmani, when we go into the discussion, please let us know what structure did AI suggest for your engineered prompt, and let's see how good that is, because that's not something we've tried, but it will be useful from a deliberation perspective, especially given like others are now I mean, we've all tried out prompts which is supposed to result in this. So please let us know what result came up for that prompt and how the
Got
AI
it.
has structured it.
Yeah, so then it says you have to write an engineered prompt this way. That's what I was mentioning. So define a system role, define an output format, and then it created this engineered prompt for me. And so, I mean, again, I'm not, I don't know what an outcome is, but since I don't know what an outcome is, I ask AI to say, all I understood was you need an engineered prompt. So why not I ask AI to engineer the prompt itself, right? So that's what I was leading to. And it gave something. I mean, this may be not right, but then at least it gives me a start. And if I know what an engineered prompt is, I can then take this and edit it further. So that I'm a bit closer for somebody who doesn't know what is engineering a prompt for an outcome. I don't know whether it is a good start or a bad start, but anyway.
It's a trial and error. I think even with prompt engineering, your first prompt is not going to be very comprehensive. Like based on the output that the AI gives you on the first prompt, you are going to refine. You're going to keep refining your prompts till you. I mean, in my head, is like you've exhausted all options or how you can train the model. So it's fine if that helps you get a starting point. I think it's good, but we do see some challenges. But yeah, we can come to that when we discuss. We can definitely look at it. I think the 2 minutes are up,
Yeah.
so maybe we can move into the discussion.
Okay. For anybody feel free to come in and we can talk about how did you structure the prompt? What was your first prompt? What did you ask AI to provide? You can also paste your prompt in the chat.
Yeah, I think I took the point you made in the slides earlier that AI tends to summarize and merge all the different uh, responses, outcomes, and here the aim being to generate a database, which means we don't want it to merge but list the outcomes separately, right? So the prompt I gave was go through each participant interaction separately and make a database of all outcomes outlined. So that's it is still running. I don't have the answer yet, but at least my attempt was to uh, make AI not merge these things. Yeah.
Anyone else want to?
So as I said, I generated the engineered prompt, and this is what I got. I got like out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 outcomes. And I don't know what I should be looking at, but are these outcomes or are these activities? So it says women bypassed middlemen to sell products, and I'm using Gemini because it's fast, and it gives some evidence source, it gives significance, and I have no idea what an outcome is, but I've got 10 different outcomes. Each says these are outcomes per se, but yeah, I don't know how to verify it as was the question. But are these outcomes? Looks like, but you are the experts, we can comment.
Hi,
I think,
Anupama.
yeah, go ahead, Pusha. I'll come back to you.
Yeah. I got outcomes, few outcomes. That is, I don't know because I didn't go through the whole document fully. So what are the outcome, exact outcomes I have? I don't have that knowledge, but it has categorized under various category like economic outcomes and then like agency outcomes and so on, like that, relationship or governance and right outcomes, like that. The changes,
Mm.
it seems that it is showing us some changes, like it was like that, and then now they have their like their savings has increased. So their savings, like this was the savings, now they could save it like this, and what are the use of that savings, that actual impact of that outcome will show. That which is not because then I have to go through all. I mean, there are 14 or something, 15. No,
No,
not 15, more than that. 24 kind of outcomes that Claude has given me. Institutional outcomes, like under various subcategories, relational outcomes, and like that. Governance and right outcomes, like that.
mm. So, Varsha, tell us what you wrote as your prompt. I think it's not
I
about,
just
yeah.
yeah, I just asked about it. I uh, take it from your slide only. Take it from your slide only, that the general outcomes of all outcomes for this program. So this is what it
Okay.
has
So
given.
did you explain to the AI
No, that
who you
the
are,
what is
what is
outcome
this
and
data
what?
set?
No, no,
Okay.
no, no, no. I didn't do that. I didn't do that.
Mm.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else want to come in?
Yeah, I am Preeti, and
Hi, Preeti.
so I my prompt was more so initially I mentioned that you're a senior ML professional, and first I asked it to give me based on the data provided. I asked how would you define an output, intermediate outcome, and outcome and impact. And then I asked it to generate, based on that definition, a results chain listing out what are the outputs, activities, outcomes, intermediate outcomes, outcomes, and impact. So I think for now, when I come across um, I think it's also because you had already mentioned that that's one area where it falters, that it
Yeah.
mixes up. So I wanted to first get a definition from AI, and based on that definition, I think the outcomes look okay for now.
So you asked AI to define what an outcome is
Yes, as a male
based on
profession,
its
as a senior
understanding.
male professional,
Mm.
first provide what are the definitions for yeah, for the different levels of results, and then provide what are these based on this data.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else want to come in before?
Aikantika, Shantini has pasted her prompt in the chat. So she has provided the
Yeah.
designation with the experience, as you can see. And then she has asked the AI tool that the data set is uploaded, and she wants to first go through it very well and then understand the context, understand the TOC, and then the AI tool should be able to distinguish between outputs and outcomes. And then she asked for the outcomes for this program and generate a database.
Okay. So
The response from Claude still running.
Okay.
yeah, that's okay. I think what we're trying to see is what all you should include in the prompt itself. So, Anu, do we want to discuss all of these questions? I think we can look at what an engineered prompt is instead of having to run it. I guess it's going to take some time.
Let me just share something. Well, I've tried two different AIs. So I
Mhm.
tried Copilot and I've also tried Perplexity.
Okay.
So I did the same prompt in both. Copilot has generated a list of outcomes, over 20-something outcomes, but then Perplexity, on the other hand, has produced a schema and is asking if I want to use that schema to generate the database. Yeah.
Right.
So in the schema, it
Perplexity.
provides
Okay.
like details of the schema, whether I want to include locations, timing, evidence support, whether I want intended or unintended outcomes, but I used the same prompt, which is quite interesting that it's the same prompt, but on the other hand, Copilot has generated a database. Perplexity is still asking more questions whether I want to use that schema to generate the database or not, and whether I want to produce a CSV file or whether I want it in Excel. Yeah, so
very
it hasn't
interesting
produced the
insight.
database. Yep.
Okay, Anu, I think we can go to the next slide. I think that will answer a lot of. So this is an example of an engineered prompt for the same task. Many of you have defined your role, but I think what we need to do is to not only explain to AI what its role is, but also explain the program itself. So if you see, we've explained the data set here, that this belongs to X program, which is a short description of what that program is about. What the data set that we are asking it to look at contains. So there's a program document and there are 8 transcripts with different stakeholders. Then we explain what we are expecting it to do. So your task is to identify outcomes from this database data set, and that you work empirically. So you start with what the evidence shows changed and not from an understanding of what the program set out to achieve. So we are telling it that don't bias your response based on the program's results as your theory of as your reference point. Then we also explain to it what outcome harvesting is. So there is a description of what the method is and how it is operationalized. Then we've explained to it what an outcome is. So it is something that change in how a person or a group or an institution behaves, decides or relates to others. And it is not, we are telling it that it is not something that the program did necessarily. So it is something that is now different because of what the program did. And then we've said that outcomes can be positive, negative, neutral, and include adverse outcomes. We've also explained to it what an outcome is, what does not constitute an outcome. So some examples from the data where we are saying that training delivered. Yeah. Anu, can you, I'll paste it. Shrija, are you able to paste the?
It's actually exceeding the word limit, so I'm just pasting it in 2 halves.
Or you can send it over email. You anyway have everybody's email.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
I mean, I'm saying if you cannot put it on the chat, you can send it as email to everybody, if that is okay.
Yeah. And then we've explained to it who an actor is also. So outcomes the change can be observed in individuals or households or groups or institution. And then an example. And then we've clearly defined how we want the output to be presented. And then what an outcome statement within that output needs to look like. So it describes the change and not necessarily the person. Basically, without that instruction, it will generally say that X person showed an increase in income because of SHG participation. But what we are trying to get is outcome pattern. So we mentioned clearly that you will report the named individuals as sources within the evidence that you are using to illustrate that outcome, but not as an outcome statement itself. Purnami, are you able to paste the prompt here? So it's not letting me.
I'll try.
I think AI is very powerful. You just take a screenshot and put it in, it figures it out.
Yeah, I even did that screenshot and upload that screenshot. It works.
Anu, do you want to share your screen?
Yes, I'm just sending the email as well.
Oh, yes.
I think this new prompt is cool. The output is much more structured, much more, I would say, crisp. It identifies the actors, it identifies the evidence. It is, I think, much more, what is the right word? Well structured, yeah.
Yeah. And this is useful even for someone like you said, you don't know what an outcome is and what it would look like. This can at least give you a first understanding of what you need to look for maybe in the data. And for those who know what an outcome is and have a good understanding of the data itself, they will be able to at least uh, what is the verify the quality of the output in that sense. Thank you. Anyone else? Anu, do you want to go to the next slide? Since you have the floor, Kumar, do you want to tell us one thing that you thought the engineered output was able to provide that was completely absent from your own? So you did mention that it's a more structured response, but anything else?
No, I can share my screen as well, or yeah, I
Sure.
can also this thing, yeah. Hope this comes up. Let me know.
Yeah, and see.
Yeah, so this was my original prompt, right? The one I was telling, like, very poorly structured prompt. Go through each participant interaction separately, make a database. And it was trying to give an outcome on a per participant basis, right? So I had not structured the prompt well enough. And so it gave participant one so many different, but it did what I asked. It said in separately do it. So for participant number one, it gave these kind of outcomes. Participant two, these kind of outcomes, separated them out. But this new prompt, when I gave this, it is given this. I hope the screen is visible.
It is visible.
Yeah. So it gives the outcomes across the participants and then gives evidence separately. It also highlights the actor. So I think these outcomes are actionable or like at least we can infer something out. Of course, I still don't know what an outcome is, how powerful this outcome is, and all of that. But the structure itself, right? That it has identified 35 different outcomes, identifying who is the actor, right? And for each of them, trying to give evidences throughout. I think the complete format itself has changed. We can go into specifics, But I would assume you are the experts to interpret the quality of the outcome.
Yeah, I think we're not trying to analyze the quality of the output itself, but the fact that between your first prompt and the second prompt, there is a marked difference in the way that it is able to, let's say, cluster outcomes across different transcripts. And you will see in the prompt that it does say that you've provided an understanding of the program itself. So it has some understanding of the kind of outcomes that it needs to look for. Then you've explained what an outcome is, and you've also explained what is not an outcome. So this this result will at least have lesser instances of activities or outputs being defined as outcomes, which you can we can't go into the quality of the output, I think, but from the sheer size of the data set you had before and this one, a lot of those activities and outputs would probably be left out in this result. And I think if you scroll down, would also have given you some borderline cases where it's not sure, or has it?
Sorry, repeat that. If I scroll down, what would I
If
see?
you can just
Borderline what?
scroll down a bit
Yeah.
towards the end.
Okay. Yeah, it gives some notes of uh, kind of assumptions, or so it says included both positive and adverse outcomes, confidence as an outcome. So
Yeah.
it has articulated well either the assumptions or the way in which it did this, all of that as well.
Yeah, so I just wanted to see if it's giving you an understanding of the data itself, the way what has it is excluded uh, based on its scan.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Shrija. Anyone else who ran the prompt and has some insights?
May I ask something? This is the tools that all the ChatGPT or whatever tools you are using is a paid version that is given you the actual table that you are looking at. Because Sridhar's table is very nicely done, and I don't know whether ChatGPT is paid or not. Because in my case, when I put it on the Claude is not allowing me because it's saying that you need to you have to upgrade it. Okay, so when I put it on the Gemini, it has given me a table and tabular format, but it's not as clearly given on the like Sridhar has just shared. So can I share that my sheet also that you can have an idea that is in this kind of a you know this
Sure,
very
sure.
Valid
it's
point,
not
Barsha. I think I tried
I
Claude
think
as well,
because on the
and I faced the same problem.
plot is
It
not
said you ran out
right.
of
So I
this
had to
thing,
change it.
right?
Yeah, right.
And I
Yeah,
saw
yeah.
that Claude is also running Sonnet 4.6 as the underlying model, and ChatGPT 2. Both are free versions only. I'm not using any paid version, and I think the number of free credits tokens across these different platforms, uh, those vary, and we are probably seeing the effect of that, I think.
And what model are you using on each of them? Like if you have some, like ChatGPT 4 behaves very differently from Claude
Two.
has other models. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it also depends on what model are you running, what did you do today with ChatGPT, all of that
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of also. Yeah.
There is an
Uh,
algorithm. I think they follow that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes,
Uma.
Min?
Yeah, so for somebody who didn't know what is outcome, I think I still hold on to my point that when I prompted it saying, hey, do an engineered prompt for me, it kind of got me somewhere even without me knowing before even you told me what I should be engineering, right? Prompt for, right? So between my two comparisons of Gemini runs, the first one also kind of because it had already engineered in some way saying, hey, you are a MEL expert, you should be doing this. I mean, I didn't even know what an MEL is for that matter. So it said you are a MEL specialist with whatever you need to do and you need to come with outcomes. Again, so for somebody, I mean, I still kind of think that instead of, I mean, you wrote a whole slide of what this engineered prompt should be. that itself can also be automated to some extent, and then you can refine it, saying, hey, I didn't want to, my engineered prompt can be engineered, right? I think so. But I don't know how effective that, so this is too vague in some sense, but it got me to a start, and then the outcomes I got were this, as compared to when you gave your engineered prompt, I just uploaded it as an image, as a screenshot. And then again, Gemini came with 10 different outcomes. Yes, it's better off because your prompting, your engineer prompt was, you know, your topic well, and you've kind of done it much, much better as compared to leaving it a bit open-ended. But my first hit at it, once I knew that I have to be engineering a prompt and taking a lead from it and going, already helped me in a big way. So my difference is not like east versus west. Maybe it is close enough. Is my thinking, but yeah.
Well, these sessions are also hacks. I think it's important that we learn from each other. It's so here we have one hack for people who are less familiar with prompt engineering, to ask AI itself to do prompt. Also
Yeah, I
scares
mean,
me.
no, I mean, I was even, as you were explaining, I was thinking, why can't, again, this is just stretching it to another level per se, right? Why can't an AI LLM be fine-tuned specifically? If you say there are many agencies doing outcome extraction, instead of having a generic LLM which does all around those all tasks, you can have a specialist who is only focused on outcome generation, and it's just a question of somebody putting tons of outcomes for this document, these are the outcomes, for this document, these are outcome, and then you have an outcome specialist LLM, and your job is done. You can then ask what you want, and you could get right.
Yeah, so I mean, you can always build a agentic AI which only does outcome extraction.
Yeah.
I mean, that's possible if you are somebody who specialize in outcome harvesting or outcome extraction, and all of your projects are there. The best thing to do is to build an agentic AI and become parts of your workflow.
Yeah.
Definitely.
No, I'm not even going to agentic, Anupama. What I'm saying is, suppose say you have, yeah, I mean, I'm just saying a refined LLM. I'm not even going to agentic. I don't know what is the difference per se. But even taking one step backward, if you have 100 documents, you have created outcomes, and you keep that as a database, I think you would not, my guess is you would not have to engineer your prompt so much, because it can take from your prior context. That is again my guess. I suppose.
Which is why all of us build prompt libraries.
Yes.
But we've also realized that you do have to tweak your prompts, irrespective of, because the program context, all of that changes. Right. So and even sometimes
outcome hardware, all these methods are used by evaluators differently. Like people use adaptations of the same method. So if you read any literature on these methods, they'll provide you 6 steps that you need to do to complete outcome harvesting. But a lot depends on the kind of program you're evaluating, what context it is operating in, what kind of data do you have. So we've tried to build, I mean, our understanding is that if you know the structure of prompting, then you can always build an understanding of the program and the data into that structure, which will give you a reasonably good output across any AI tool.
And if we can use AI to generate that prompt structure, then great.
Yeah.
I think that will be also an amazing good start. So yeah, I think we have 10 minutes. Perhaps what we can do is maybe one more prompt, just for you guys to see, because one of the issues that we discussed, and then sort of like for us to sort of close out the session. I'm just going to quickly share my screen. Again, you guys can take a screenshot, or I've also shared the presentation on an email. So this is the second prompt that we want you guys to run.
If you can scroll a bit, we can then see the output table. Otherwise, we don't. Yeah, okay. No, sorry, maybe my mistake.
We just have the headings for the output table, so you can mention that.
So is this for the same document, right? Document 2 itself.
Same document.
Yes,
Same
yes.
Same documents.
So I've heard that uh, when you continue that same chat conversation, uh, sometimes it remembers the context, sometimes it get confused with the context. So would you recommend we do this on a new chat, or we continue on the same chat with this new prompt? What is your experience on this?
I think my experience is that on Chat GPT is able to remember context, it has memory. So if you continue in the same chat, it is able to produce
Yeah.
results based on that data. But Claude does not, I don't think it is able to use that memory very well to.
We have just recently launched because yesterday only I was getting one notification. If you want to, remember your memory and attach
Yeah,
things, that needs
yeah,
some files.
yeah, that came just yesterday. So before that, we would have to explain to it again,
Yeah.
and starting a new chat also does help conserve tokens. We have seen versus continuing in the same chat seems to take up.
Now, that is
So
one part of it, but also now that it is, I understand we are trying to optimize that is the same document, but now that it is a different prompt, the
yeah,
previous prompt versus
Mm-hmm.
this new prompt, will it clash or is it okay in the same chat? What is your
no,
experience
no,
on
it
that
won't
one?
clash. No, no,
It won't, yeah.
it won't.
It is okay. It depends so actually on the how many number of prompts also we have provided, but because we are now giving proper structured prompts one after the other, it won't clash. But if in one chat we continuously try to give more and more prompts, then it starts, forgetting the data, and we have to again explain or go into the new chat.
Okay, thank you.
So very quickly, these are the reflections, but I don't know how your experience has been. Maybe we can just take one remark for somebody who has run the prompt. I know we are at, maybe just very quickly one reflection before I pass it on back to Aikantika.
Yeah, so I ran it on Gemini and I mean, it's interesting. It says what is positive, negative, and gives an evidence for each of what it has found as unintended outcomes. I don't know what an unintended outcome is, meaning the program had a specific reason and you ended up with a different outcome per se, I presume from the plain English, but but it has got what was asked for because the prompt has been very detailed.
Yeah, the other interesting thing after the outcomes, it also talks about boundary calls could be argued either way, which was not there earlier. Um, that is interesting as well. And what the evidence cannot tell us. So I think the prompt has that one of the points you made where you wanted the strictest outcome, push it to say what you cannot do. I think that kind of sentences or prompts are there in this iteration of the prompt, which is why it's giving. I would assume it's giving this kind of a different outcome.
Great. Now, given in the interest of time, we'll just quickly go back, and I think we've done a lot of discussion. So, and we didn't do a breakout, so we're going to just sort of skip this. Purnami, can you go ahead? Yeah, Aikantika, over to you.
Thanks, Sam. So, like Anu mentioned, we will be sharing these slides with you along with all the prompts. We did have another exercise, but unfortunately, we were not able to go through it. So, just to very briefly summarize what we think AI is able to support, to absolutely make it clear that it does not substitute our judgment and understanding. So, what we've seen is that the structure transfers even when the prompt does not. So across AI platforms, you would have seen that if you use a structured prompt, it will work on different AI tools. Again, the output quality might be different, but it will be definitely better than a generic prompt. So regardless of the method, the data set, or the evaluation question, I think the three moves that we mentioned, which is defining the role and specifying the program or the nature of the analysis, and then injecting the constraints within the data, and then challenging the output is something that is absolutely essential when we are doing data analysis, especially qualitative data analysis. And then prompt engineering again is not a one-time fix, so it does require iteration. So the first prompt you will write will not be your best one, and generally most of us who get the most out of this exercise are the ones who are able to test prompts on different platforms, observe what the output is missing, adjust the prompt, and then run it again. So that is, I think, Shrita, that is what we were also trying to get across. That this is a templatized version of what we think a prompt should have. And then, of course, AI will change. It increases efficiency, so you can do speedier analysis, but it does not change what the analysis requires. So contextual knowledge and understanding, methodological judgment, accountability, these are things that cannot necessarily be prompted. So an evaluator has to put their judgment into every output, every finding, every conclusion, because the evaluator knows their data. They know what questions it wants the AI to answer from the data, and can exercise their judgment when they are doing the evaluation. So the AI is a tool that helps them in this process. And then some things around ethics. So we've when we're using AI in evaluation, I think there is an obligation to be transparent with our client, explain how it was used, at what stage, and what kind of QA or human oversight was exercised. And because that allows, there is a lot of mistrust around using AI, especially. We don't know if you know the data well enough, or you're just using the output that has been generated at the first prompting. So it is essential that you disclose how you use the AI and in what stages of the evaluation. And lastly, of course, you must consider the data before you upload it. So every transcript, document, beneficiary account you upload into commercial AI tools, of course, it leaves the secure environment. So before you use AI on this evaluation data, it's imperative that you check with the client what they are agreeable to, what data protection obligations are there, and anonymize interview transcripts, for instance, because anonymity is important. And we always use paid versions of enterprise licenses of softwares by using AI on evaluations. So basically, efficiency is not worth compromising on the ethics of using AI in evaluations. So that is it from our end. Anu, if you had anything, or Shrija, any?
No, we just wanted to thank all of you for joining us today, and I hope the sessions were helpful. As promised, we will be sending you these exercises we had planned for each of the breakout as well, so you can try it. Like we said, our intent is not to sort of train you. Our intent is to share our experience in terms of prompting and what we have learned and it's always growing. Our learning of AI models, AI tools are evolving. So I hope the session is helpful. And thank you for joining us today. And good luck with
I'm
the AI
sorry to
journey.
I'm sorry to interrupt, please, before you close the session.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. Two things. That one is that does it really replace the software like in Vivo Atlas or Deduce like that we use for the qualitative study? And also, secondly, that just the last point that Antika just said about the use of AI tools because ethical use of AI tools because what my query is that how does it differentiate between the two evaluators because does it depend on the prompts because sometimes when you are giving a kind of report to the clients, they always look at the what percentage of AI we have used, right? That is just check and balance is always there, like a presentation thing. So in this case, how do you do that? How do we handle that? Because for us, like an individual consultant, we can't have like not always possible to get a paid version. Not always, two or three things we can get it. So how you manage and how to address that? How to approach that?
Okay, so this I'll answer the first part. All of the qualitative softwares that you've talked about, Basha, be it MaxQDA, NVivo, Atlas AI, they all now have an AI assist feature. Each of them behave differently, of course, but you can use AI within the software to help you with the coding. And it also depends on what AI tool you are using, also for the qualitative analysis. I just responded on chat. For example, our experience with Copilot is that it is better in terms of synthesis using coded content. So we coded the content or the transcripts or the program documents on MaxQDA and then sort of imported that into Copilot only from a synthesis perspective. Now you can actually do it within MaxQDA itself. The AI assist will help you sort of synthesize it. And it also allows you to sort of select the length of the summary, etc. So it really depends on AI. Like our experience with Copilot in terms of coding the document has not been very good. Uh, but it really depends on it. I don't think it will replace these softwares completely. It depends on, for example, if you only have like a 10 documents, then maybe Copilot or an AI tool is better than having a MaxQDA or an NVivo. But if you're looking at a large scale qualitative exercise, then perhaps it's a combination of two or just use AI functions within them, right? And it's also what you are using AI for. So I don't think it's a straight answer. Your second question was around, sorry, I didn't fully understand it. But Aikantika, if you caught it, maybe you can respond.
No, Barsha, if you could
Yeah,
repeat
my
your
question is
question.
that, my question was that, how do you differentiate between the two evaluators? Does it depend on the prompts and when you are using AI? So all are using AI, right? So so how will you differentiate between the two? Is it the prompt that is important to get the most quality report or something like that?
Are you asking is the tool important or the prompt important? Is that what your
Yeah,
question
right.
is?
Like that. Yeah.
I
Sure.
think I think AI models are forever evolving, Basha. I mean, with every launch, AI is getting more intelligent. So I think it's also trial and error. But in our experience, for example, ChatGPT is not the best in terms of qualitative analysis. Also, it holds lesser documents. A certain thing allows you to, I don't know, like our experience with Claude has been better versus Copilot and ChatGPT when it comes to qualitative coding. Notebook LLM's experience has been better, but Notebook LLM, for example, you have to upload only PDF documents. So there are constraints in which, but prompting, irrespective of what AI tool you are using, has to be good. Your output is definitely a function of AI tool, but it is equally prompt engineering will, if you have a really best tool but your prompt is bad, you will not get high quality output. So but your AI model does play a role in terms of the quality of your output as well. We can't negate that. But just because you have the best AI model and you have bad prompts, you won't get a good output. So
Thank
if
you.
that
Thank you
helps
so
you.
much to all of you. Yeah,
Thank you.
definitely. Thank you so much to all of you.
Thanks everyone. Thanks for staying the extra 5 minutes. Thank you everyone.
Thank you, really appreciate it. I just wanted to know what was, I know you wanted to share your findings and all of that, and that's a very noble thought of you and your company to do that. But how do you visualize this initiative going forward? Like, meaning, is it just a one-off engagement we are having, or you plan to do something more?
I mean, Athena as an organization does other activities. You're welcome to join. Like if you follow us on our website, we do like other webinars and things like that. But this is part of gLOCAL event, and gLOCAL happens every year. So I mean, if we are doing anything else in terms of this as an organization, we are happy to send you the details.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank
Sure.
you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.